So we're starting with Justin Fields. The Steelers obviously got Russell Wilson, and then I guess a week later or so got Justin Fields. Fans have always been super high on Justin Fields, love that athleticism, but it seems that they couldn't get anything for him. I think they got a late round 3 pick for him. And another
day
story of this.
Pick. No, not even round 3. Day 3. Round 6 that could turn into a 4. Go ahead.
I apologize. Even worse. So you've always been super low on Justin Fields. Who do you think is wrong on Justin Fields? Is it the fans or is it the league?
So I don't know. Listen, So this is a somewhat complicated answer. So I don't know that I have been low on Justin Fields. I know that there was speculation last year before the season. Man, could Justin Fields be the NFL MVP this year? And I thought, okay, that's not going to happen. However, I also understand the allure of Justin Fields. The size, the weight, the 4.4 speed, and as I discussed on First Things First yesterday, he has had just enough stretches of not good play, as I hold my hand up like Mr. Claw and Inspector Gadget, of not just good play, but exceptional play that you're like, man, and he's young
There's
enough.
Something there.
Because he was young when he came into the league. Justin Fields just last week turned 25. So he's young enough. And then you're like, man, do you remember, and I'll give you the exact games, the stretch in 2022 when he just seemed indefensible? He had a stretch in 2022 where the Lions scored 29 against Dallas. He had 210 total yards, not that many, I understand. 2 touchdowns, no turnovers. I'm sorry, 3 touchdowns, no turnovers. The very next week, he ran for 180, had 4 total touchdowns. The very next week, he ran for 150, had 4 total touchdowns. So in that 3-game stretch, the Lions scored 29, 32, and 30. He had a 108 rating. He threw 7 touchdowns. He ran for 4 touchdowns. And he ran for 130 yards per game. You're like, man, feels like there's something there on a terrible Bears team. Then last year, right before he got hurt, weeks 4 and 5, he had a 2-game stretch where he threw for 335 and 4 touchdowns. And then threw for 280 and 4 touchdowns. So he had a 2-game stretch with more than 600 yards passing, a 130 rating, 8 touchdowns, 1 pick. I might have said Lions earlier. The Bears, averaged 35 points per game in those 2 games, and you're like, man, I feel like there is a lot of upside here. So that is what people fall in love with. Now, obviously, the NFL has not fallen in love with it, given the fact that he was able to be had for a 6th-round pick that can turn into, at best, a 4th-round pick. Now, part of that is inexplicable to me in this regard. The Minnesota Vikings just said, Sam Darnold, $10 million to come play quarterback for us. $10 million. Justin's going to make 3.2. The Raiders just said Gardner Minshew, $25 million for 2 years, come play quarterback for us. That doesn't make sense to me, okay? I would rather take the shot on Justin Fields. I do understand, though, why teams are afraid of the lack of consistency. And so, does the trade market always make sense? Does it make a lot of sense that Trey Lance...
You also have to look at the team that he's coming from. Like, it's the Bears. I think that with a lot of other teams, it'd be a different look.
So I think that's why the Bears... Right, so I think, Demonte, that's why the Bears tried to do him a somewhat of a solid and send him to a place he might actually be able to start. So I know they're saying Russ is the starter, and I bet Russ will be the week 1 starter, but I highly doubt Russ is the week 8 starter. So I think that, now I do not buy at all that the Bears were offered a second or a third round pick for him. And instead, to do him a solid, they traded him for a sixth. I do buy that they were maybe offered a fifth round pick by a team that he wouldn't like. As a for instance, I used this example on TV yesterday. I use it again. Let's just say we know the Bills wanted a backup quarterback because they signed Mitch Trubisky in free agency. Let's say the Bills called up Chicago and said, we'll give you a fifth round pick for Justin Fields. Do I think that the Bears might have said, you know what, send him to Buffalo where he has no chance of ever playing? We're going to, as opposed to sending him to Pittsburgh where he could actually compete, yeah, we will take a slightly worse return in that regard. But if someone had offered a second or a third, the Bears, I believe, would have taken it. Now, maybe someone offered a second or a third months ago, and the Bears waited because they thought they could get better and they overestimated the market. But here is the reason the Bears would feel an obligation to do right by Fields is, here was kind of his timeline, DeMonze. Year one, Justin, you're not going to start. You're not going to play. Andy Dalton's the guy. Take a year, Mahomes' path to learn from the veteran. Justin Fields is starting by week 3. So they throw him into the fire. Year 2, the Bears intentionally wanted to be the worst team in the league. They traded away Roquan Smith. They tore it all down, took all their dead cap in one lump because they were trying to rebuild, which I understand, but he did not have an NFL team around him. Year 3 is where he has the least. They did trade for DJ Moore. They did get him the right tackle, in the draft. They did add some pieces, but that's also where you saw some flashes. So I don't think they necessarily did right by him. I also don't think he's by any means proven that he's even a good NFL player. Position. Right. What he has proven, DeMonze, is if it were to click in for him, he has an incredibly high ceiling. But the league pretty clearly said, we value a higher floor rather than the potential upside of a high ceiling. But I think he's going to end up being the Steelers' starting quarterback. I think that Russ will start in the beginning of the year, Russ will be Russ, and then Fields will take over. Hey, thanks for watching. Hit the subscribe button to get more from the show, and make sure to click the bell to get notified every time new content drops. Check out full episodes of What's Right wherever you get your podcasts, or just click the link in the description below.